Poll, ARG, their reputation is shaky at best. There's other numbers out there indicating it's a little more muddled, that Paul's still got a sustained sort of, so I'd be careful here. But I think Huntsman, look, if he can't finish second after living here, I don't know how he moves on, but I can tell you what the Huntsman campaign's told me is they're going to South Carolina because they believe the game is this. Deny Romney victories. You got to deny him South Carolina and Florida because then you stretch out the fight. The longer the fight goes, the more they might find their opportunity. The real fear here for this entire field is that not only does Romney win here by a sizable margin, but he goes on and wins South Carolina. Look, he could win by 8 votes, and it's over if he wins South Carolina.
Let's take a look at another poll we're more used to, and I guess we give more credit to the Suffolk poll we've been watching for days now. It shows Mitt Romney still with a sizable lead, no surprise, at 39, a bit higher than the other poll. Ron Paul, however, has second at 17, with Huntsman at 11, but still in this case, Chuck, Huntsman has overtaken Newt and Santorum. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that's interesting because the Santorum momentum stopped. You know, on a tracking poll, you never want to look at the actual result. You want to look at the trend line. Santorum had this great trend line going, and it was moving 2 or 3 points a day in that poll. And then, frankly, right on cue to that horrible campaign day that he had here, where he was interrupted by occupiers, could add a fire marshal issue, got into an argument about gay rights with a high school student. Just that horrible campaign day that he had coincides with that dip all of a sudden and his momentum stopping. I don't think that's a coincidence in that regard, Chris.
Okay, so Santorum having a hard time. Thank you, Chud Todd, who's at the debate site. Let me go back to my colleagues, Ed Schultz and Lawrence O'Donnell. What do you make of where this, let me give you a first big shot out of the barrel here coming at this thing. I think it was a hell of a debate. I think Gregory did a hell of a job because he ignited them where we all thought they wanted to be ignited, but they needed somebody to say, okay, go at it, guys.
Well, 2 different debates from last night and today. We had some substance in the first 30 seconds of today's debate. But I think Romney is the guy that has been the conventional wisdom that he's the guy to beat. Why have they taken so long to go after him? If they had been doing this for the last month, we might have a different poll here in New Hampshire.
But you know the answer. They're competing for...
Well, they shouldn't be. I mean, if they're of their conviction and they believe that they should be president of the United States, they should be going after the lead and trying to convince people. And I don't get a sense from any of the candidates that they're doing that. I thought that Romney showed his cards today, who he is. His dad told him that if he couldn't make his mortgage payment, then maybe he shouldn't be running for office. Does that mean only rich people run for office? I think that's a snapshot to how he thinks on personal policy, on the middle class, on all of those things. I thought that was very revealing about how he thinks. And I believe that Romney is still the guy to beat. He's got a lot of points to give right now. And who finishes second? I don't know if that matters right now.
It's so interesting, your value system, you're attached to these guys because he believes the market beats democracy, and the other guy, Santorum, thinks his religion beats the Constitution every time.
Well, true, but Santorum is the same guy that was in Iowa. He's just played different up here. He wore the plaid shirt in Iowa a heck of a lot better than he's been wearing the industrial shirt here in New Hampshire. And for some reason, he's had a couple of missteps. Last night at the debate, you could tell that he was standing in a different position on the stage. He just didn't feel comfortable for most of the debate. Today, he was a heck of a lot better, and he got his sea legs and went after Romney.
What's happening up here, Lawrence?
Well, one thing that happened overnight is right after last night's debate, I said this is the best thing that could happen to David Gregory's debate. Last night's debate was the most boring debate, and those candidates knew it. They were leaving the stage knowing I blew this one. Everybody except Romney, of course, who's just there to run out the clock. And they had no choice but to come in this morning and really go to work.
What you make of the topic selection last night?
It has nothing to, this is a big mistake. It has nothing to do with moderators, okay? If you've been in campaigns and you see how candidates are coached going into a debate, it never has anything to do with the moderators. You go in there to fight or you don't. And it's like saying, you know, the boxers were waiting for the referee to let them fight. It doesn't work that way.
No, I didn't mean
Watch
that.
The way Santorum.
No, I meant the top. Do you think there was? Do you think the focus on birth control and abortion was overdone?
I'm telling you, I don't care what the question is.
Right.
If they ask them a question about foreign policy and he wants to talk about abortion, he will. He'll give you one sentence on your Iran question.
I know, that's how we're trained to do it.
Right.
I know, we're all learned that game. Here's Mitt Romney tried to rise above the fray by attacking Obama, his standard tool over the state of the economy. In fact, that is what he does, what you say they should do. He ignores his Lilliputian opponents, and he always goes for the president. Here he is. Attack up.
When you have an administration that tries to raise taxes and has on businesses, when it puts in place Obamacare that's going to raise the cost of health care for businesses, when they stack the National Labor Relations Board with labor stooges, which means that the policies relating to labor are now going to change dramatically in a direction they find uncomfortable, when you have Obamacare that places more mandates on them, when you have Dodd-Frank, which makes it harder for community banks to make loans, all these things collectively create a reality of a president who has been anti-investment, anti-jobs, anti-business, and people feel that. And if you want to get this country going again, you have to recognize that the role of government is not just to catch the bad guys, important as that is. It's also to encourage the good guys and to return America to a land of opportunity.
Do you notice the kind of a constriction in the personality of Romney? And this is nothing new, but when anybody interrupts him, he has this weird kind of almost school teacher's manner of a proctor.
He's a hand slapper.
Yeah, he's like, he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
And it's like when that reporter asked him surprising questions, he began crossing his legs and everything. Lawrence, is this going to be something that the smart guys in the White House are seeing in the game films? They go, wait a minute, this guy is very uncomfortable with surprise, with novelty. He wouldn't be a kind of a Woody Allen fan, this guy. He wouldn't be looking for the surprising thing in life.
The smart guys in the Romney campaign know this. Stuart Stevens and those guys have been working with him since that first moment he had with Bret Baier that was so uncomfortable. Yeah. And then you saw him go out and try to rectify it by going on other Fox News interview shows. And so he knows he has this problem. They know he has this problem.
How would you describe it?
It's exactly what you said. If it isn't going, it's like he's the chairman of the board, and some new board member who's not even supposed to speak in this meeting just said something about the stock price that made everyone uncomfortable, and it's so it's just
speak through your direct reports.
Exactly right. It's and so it's I can't believe this is happening to me sensation that you get from
I'm better than you. That's his whole
What about
makeup.
labor stooges? I thought you would have heard that word stooge, because there's a guy declaring war. Admittedly, labor's not what it was under George Meany, but it exists. Why did he pick a fight there with labor on the right to work issue? Didn't he come out? One of them came out for a national right to work law.
Republican red meat. They love it.
It is. When he says stooge, does that mean that all wage earners in America are stooges? Is that how he views workers in this country? I think that eventually that is going to hurt him with independent voters. There's a lot of independent voters out there that are wage earners.
The guy you've been saying a couple nice things about Santorum. He went out the other day. Stop saying middle class. Drop this class. Middle income. Yeah. Because this idea of class is anti-American.
Well, I know that some people around President Obama are concerned about the term middle class because it sounds like it kind of vilifies people who make a hell of a living in this country. And that's why they're pivoting greatly to income disparity, because they want to do the total picture of it. I thought Santorum, from a conservative standpoint, did make a very valid point there, because that's their argument that we don't want to divide up, we want to unite.
Gotcha.
But the way the income disparity has gone in this country, you can't avoid working class, middle class, and the privileged.
Yep. We'll get back to it. Ed Schultz. We'll be right back with Ed Schultz and Lawrence O'Donnell right after that. They're staying with us. Where you're watching MSNBC's coverage of the exciting Republican presidential debate this morning in Manchester, New Hampshire, just 2 days before the big primary coming up this Tuesday.
It was Governor Romney who made the point to a young person who approached him that if he were president and when this person got out of college, he or she'd have a job. If President Obama has a second term, he or she will not have a job. Isn't that the kind of thing that makes people angry with politicians? Easy answers like that?
Well, I don't think that's an easy answer. I think that's a statement of fact. I realize the red light doesn't mean anything to you because you're the front runner. But can we drop a little bit of the pious baloney? Just level with the American people. You've been running for at least since the 1990s.
Wow, pious baloney, that ripped the scab off, didn't it? We're back from Manchester just 2 days before the New Hampshire primary. We're going to get some reaction in just a moment from the debate, from the chairwoman of the Democratic National Committee, U.S. Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman-Schultz, who's sitting right here. But first, we've got some news. NBC's Andrea Mitchell has been talking to Rick Santorum and Ron Paul, and she's with us right now from the debate site in Concord. Andrea.
Rick Santorum, heading to South Carolina, was much more aggressive, as you know, today. He's fallen behind, severely behind, in the daily tracking poll, as you know, the Suffolk traffic poll, but he's insisting that he can still be competitive here. They're both very defensive. I talked to Rand Paul, excuse me, not Ron Paul. Both very defensive that they can still stop the Mitt Romney juggernaut, really, from going on. But it seems as though, even though Mitt Romney has lost some elevation coming into this debate, and now we don't know how it's going to play coming out of this debate. He's down to 35. He's lost 8 points, Chris, since only last Tuesday. And Ron Paul is really gaining momentum. Rand Paul said he would not totally rule out a third-party run by his father because his father never says absolutely no to anything. But he seemed to be indicating that that is not in the cards, and that after South Carolina, if Mitt Romney is still way ahead, that they're all going to have to fall in line. He said that Mitt Romney has to earn the Tea Party support, earn the support of the very independent Ron Paul supporters, but he's certainly indicating that the party does need to come together. So there's a softening of that. I also questioned him about Iran, because Iran has been so much more aggressive about the Strait of Hormuz just in the last 48 hours, the last 24 hours. And according to Ron Paul, there is still time to talk to Iran, and that his father still has the best position on Iran. His view is that Newt Gingrich and Ron Paul are the real competitors now, that Rick Santorum has really fallen way behind. Chris?
Okay, Andrew, thanks for joining us from the debate side. We've got joining us right now the chairwoman of the Democratic National Committee. I thought I saw an opening for your candidate, the President of the United States, there in the sort of the undressing, if you will, of the front runner here. The dishonor with which they treated him. They didn't treat him like their designated hero yet. They're not ready to fall in line, the phrase just used now by Andrea on behalf of one of the candidates there. It seems like they're basically taking off of him his main claim to fame, which is he's an innocent. He's been a man of the business world, a man who's not part of our political wreckage right now, not to be blamed for the divisiveness or the disorganization of American politics, a man who's clean as a whistle. They said, no, you ran for Congress against Ted Kennedy and lost. You would have been defeated for re-election as the governor of Massachusetts, so you skipped out. You are just another Powell. You've been running for the presidency. This is your second shot at it. You're just another wannabe. You're as ambitious as any of us. You're no cleaner than we are. Can they take that back, come Tampa time and say, here's the answer to our problem, clean off the bench, Mitt Romney? Can they take it back?
Well, in the immortal words of Newt Gingrich, the pious baloney has been exposed. I mean, Mitt Romney has been a political wannabe for a very long time, and the only reason that he hasn't been a career elected official is because he was unsuccessful in that endeavor. And I mean, the important thing I think for Tuesday, zeroing in on a couple of days from now, is that why isn't Mitt Romney over 50%? This is as close to his home state as you could be. He was governor of the state next door. He has a family home here. He's only in the 30s. There's obviously a lackluster, no enthusiasm on the Republican side. He limped out of Iowa. I mean, remember, the guy spent the most to only beat the guy who spent the least by 8 votes, and now he can't even break 40% in a state that's essentially his home state. There is a remarkable lack of enthusiasm, because when you have no conviction, like Mitt Romney has, then you don't stand for anything, no one wants to put you in the White House.
Do you see Congresswoman Newt Gingrich someday really being on the stump strong for Mitt Romney?
It would be hard to imagine that Newt Gingrich would be enthusiastically embracing Mitt Romney.
So this could be a lingering problem for the Romney camp. Okay, let's say he wins. He still has points to give here in New Hampshire. He goes down and he wins South Carolina. You heard what Andrea said about Rand Paul saying, well, it's probably over there. How can Newt Gingrich get in line?
Well, I think that because they've all been really moving so far to the right and trying to outright wing each other, bear hugging the Tea Party, I mean, they're going to have to choose their masters. I mean, for the general, how do they climb back to the middle?
So this is all good for the president.
How about predatory? Is that a word you guys can use? Newt Gingrich accused of him of being predatory in his business practices, running a chop shop.
The general election will be about who has been fighting for the middle class, who's been fighting to get this economy turned around, and not make success only something that's possible for the wealthy. Is
Mitt Romney a job creator or a job destroyer?
He's a job cremator. That's the that's the term that I think best fits. And
so his equity firm is mainly the kind of firm we do understand. They go into a company, they get rid of all the intermediate management, they clean it down, they reduce the cost, they make it indebted.